Alright, hello and welcome to another Bow Beats episode. In today's video we are outside in beautiful Sweden, it's autumn, and in today's video I want to talk about why I am a synth nerd. So get ready for some true self-rationalization here, talking about why I buy synths and why I love them. But sometimes, I think it could be fun. I think you guys can relate, so hopefully you find this entertaining, and if you do, hit that little like button. Alright, so let's get the obvious out of the way. I don't think there's one way to enjoy your equipment. I don't even think that you necessarily have to make a lot of music to warrant buying a synth or even having a studio. I mean, it all depends on what the end goal is for you. I know a lot of friends who are good at playing guitar, drums, bass, and they don't make any songs, they don't write any music, they don't record anything, they just do it because it's fun. Because it's an artistic expression. And synths is nothing different. You can own as much or as little as you want, and that's fine. Now, of course, you shouldn't confuse owning stuff with being creative. So in a different video I'll talk a little bit more about that, because I do have a couple of rules that I set up for myself, so I don't just go and buy too much stuff without actually producing anything with it, because I do feel it's maybe a little wasteful to just own stuff if I don't have any use for it. But I can totally relate if you go and get a Moog Sub 37 and just play it because you enjoy the sound, or you get a Matrix Brute because you enjoy working with it, even if you might not have the most practical use out of it. So I think that's important to say and important to get out of the way. But it's also important to recognize that you don't need to have a lot of analog synths in order, to be a successful musician or producer or whatever you want to achieve musically or artistically. Gear is just tools, but it's not just tools. Gear also has, different gear has inherently different value to different people. I don't think that saying, you can make music with anything is really... I don't really think it's a good way to express it, because of course you can. But if you ask a guitar player if he'd rather have like a nice Fender or like a simple entry-level Squier, of course he'd want the Fender. I mean, there's an inherent difference to a Fender and a Squier guitar, and it's the same for synths, I think. My number one reason for having a lot of synths and enjoying having a studio, my number one reason is, of course, that I enjoy making sounds. I wouldn't say enjoy making music. I do enjoy making music. I have made a lot of music. I got some new tracks coming up and whatnot, but more importantly, I enjoy making sounds, and I do feel it's more fun to make sounds on a physical synth. It's just more intuitive, hands-on, a tactile feel to it, and I've said it before, it's just, something I enjoy. And somebody might say, well, you can make this sound on a computer. Yeah, that's a valid argument. I mean, if we talk about investment and getting the most out of something, yeah, maybe a soft synth will do just fine and be definitely good enough for most use cases if we're talking just getting that sound. But I don't really enjoy sitting by a computer using virtual faders, turning them up and turning them down and connecting stuff. I don't even like using like an iPhone, like the Moog model, I think it's Moog Model 15, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really like patching on that, because I feel it's so strange for me to sit and drag cables on a digital interface like that. Just doesn't appeal to me. That's why. Big important reason why I like my hardware synths is because I enjoy working on them. When you get accustomed to using a certain synth, it's almost like second nature. I've worked so much with the Minilog that it just sit down, I tweak it. I made a couple of tutorials as well. It's just so second nature. Even Electron, the Analog 4 Mark II that I'm working with, is starting to become a little bit second nature in the sense that I know where things are and it's kind of fast to work with. So even though that workflow might seem a little bit unintuitive to some people, it does become kind of second nature because of the hardware nature of the synth. That's reason number one. And of course, this is just funny rationalizations of why you spend money on stuff. But I do think that there are inherently different values in different synths and different types of hardware. So I wouldn't say it's like all relative. I would say that there are differences between synths, not necessarily in the way they sound, but in the way you use them, the way they work, the way they feel to you. And that will have some kind of impact on what you're doing, because, things are different. Not better, worse, just different. Now, the second reason I enjoy hardware synths is actually one that some will find super silly, but I think it's super important. It's that I like being a part of a community. the hardware synth community, even though, you know, sometimes it can be depicted as a little elitist and a little, you know, gear-centric and materialistic, I still think it's filled with great, mature, knowledgeable people, and I love being a part of it. It's been a huge part of the last year, and it's actually helped me quite a deal. It's helped me through some troubles I've had in my life, with all the support you guys have given me. And since I've been kind of a part of a music production studio synth world online for so many years, I do feel like the community aspect is hugely important, because otherwise we're just these people owning our small music spaces, making music in like a void or something. You know, it's this social emptiness, and I truly enjoy feeling like I'm a part of a bigger community of people with, if not the exactly same passions, similar desires, similar struggles and whatnot. So that's a big thing for me, and I'd love to hear from you if that's something that you also think is very important. And this will of course sound strange if we just think about synths as a tool to make music, to put music out there, to release stuff. But if we think about like gardening or like knitting or like, you know, any other sort of creative hobby, I think the social aspect is hugely important. My wife, she has this gathering of people. They meet up and they just sit and they do like, they paint and they do different kind of how do you say it in English? It's not handwork. It's like, they knitting and they, you know, talk and just hang out, and they do a little bit of baking, like art. Is it called arts and craft? I'm not sure, but that's what they're doing, and I can totally relate to that. And just look here. It's one of my favorite places. You can sit down here. Now it's a little wet and all, but you can sit down here and just, you know, watch the river flow by. So the social aspect is for me hugely important. But what about number 3? Well, to be honest, number 3 is pretty much a materialistic reason. Number 3 is the fact that I personally have always wanted to have a sort of nice studio. That doesn't really have anything to do with, you know, outputting great music. I think most people are aware about that. I also think that it's just like having a nice garden or having a nice car. You know, even though it's kind of materialistic and perhaps even shallow, it can still be a part of your dreams for your life. And for me, it's always been a kind of big thing that I always wanted, like my own space. I guess growing up, I had a little hard time fitting in at different points in my life because I moved around a lot. Not because I was socially awkward, but rather because I moved a lot. And for me, having my studio space was always very important, because that was like the constant thing. Since I was like 14, 15, having like my own studio space, also where I did a bit of video games, was very important. It was like a big part of how I lived my life, I guess. And I was hugely productive in different, you know, during different years musically. Then I took a little bit of a break, focused on my career, you know, in my like mid to late 20s. And now I'm back at it again. I just felt that need for a bit of privacy, I guess. Well, privacy might be the wrong word since I'm making videos and putting it on the internet, but you know, having my own space, having that space where I can just sit, relax, create and do whatever I want. And I'm happy to have come this far, both creatively and when it comes to the studio space, that it's evolved to what it is. And you know, you can think that's materialistic, you can think it's shallow, or you can see it for what it is. You know, we have different desires in our lives, and I think a lot of us do enjoy our pieces of gear for various reasons, and I guess that's why I wanted to make this video. So guys, this was a little walk and talk here in this Swedish autumn nature, and let me just show you such a beautiful backdrop here. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button, consider, you know, subscribing. And if you want to support my little YouTube channel further, you can always check the description for links to Patreon. And there's also the Patreon forum over on www.simplysynth.com. And this video was shot on the front-facing camera on the iPhone 8. If you're, you know, into getting a new camera, I think it's decent, the front-facing, and the normal one is even better. I hope you guys have a pleasant day, and I talk to you later. Bye.